It was a lovely evening, so I decided to head out with the air rifle after a few rabbits. Now I've already checked one or two fields before this and didn't see anything, but when I approached this gate into another field off the yard, I spotted a rabbit about 30 yards away. So I slowed my pace down, made myself as small as possible, and easily made my way up to the gate post to use it as a rest to help steady my shot. And placed the shot into the brain, rolling the rabbit over nice and cleanly. There wasn't any other rabbits out at this point, so I walked over to pick it up. Shot was well placed, and it was a nice adult, full-sized rabbit, an old buck rabbit. He must have been busy because his stones looked a bit dried up. So I give his belly a bit of a squeeze to get rid of any excess urine, and shook the blood out of his ears and put him in the game bag. Then motored on to see what else there was about. I did spot just the tips of a rabbit's ears in the long grass further down the hedgerow, but he never gave me an opportunity to get close enough for a shot. Down at the other end of the field, I was making my way down the path, trying to avoid the attentions of the cattle, but that doesn't always happen, unfortunately. Now, I wasn't quite paying attention to what I was doing or my surroundings when I spotted a rabbit down at the bottom of the hedgerow in front of me. I was about 30 yards away, so I set the rifle up on the sticks and got ready for the shot. His head was sitting quite low in the grass, so I aimed just into the grass with a pellet, and whether the grass drowned the pellet or I just missed, I don't know, but Mr. Rabbit got to live for another day. I dandered on down to the hedgerow just to make sure I hadn't got him, but he was safely into his hole.
What do you want? I've got nothing for you. Everybody wants to be on YouTube, huh?
So I'd managed to get away from the attentions of the cattle after they tried to photobomb me, and made my way into quite a large rough field. I know there's rabbits in this field, I could see them in the distance, but because it's a slightly crested field with fairly long cover in it, it's sometimes hard to stalk them. The rabbits can see you from quite a distance away, or sometimes they just burst out from below your feet and in among the tall grass. But at this point I spotted a few rabbits in the distance. They did look nervous, but I managed to get rid of the game bag and get down on my hands and knees, and then later down on my elbows and my belly to try and close the gap between me and the rabbit to see if I could get a sensible shot for an air rifle. It took a bit of wriggling about in damp grass, and I thought I'd spooked them at one point, as they all seemed to have disappeared. I gave up in disgust, only to spot one in the distance, just at the edge of the gorse bush before it ran on into its hole. It was a wee bit of a younger rabbit, and he probably decided to linger on that wee bit longer to see what I was. I'd nothing else for it but to take a freehand standing shot at about 35 yards. and managed to place the shot nicely into the rabbit's head. It's a nice clean kill. The blood coming out of the rabbit's ears showed that the pellet went through the brain. So again, I give its belly a wee squeeze to get rid of any excess urine and got rid of any of the congealed blood in its ears. Then head it back up the wee hill to my game bag. Then head it on to see what else I could find. The light was really starting to go at this point, but I was slowly making my way down this old overgrown path along the property line, and I spotted a rabbit in the distance. He'd obviously seen me, but since he was used to seeing cattle about the field, he didn't pay me much heed. He was about 35 yards, and I got the rifle set up. Got onto him and took the shot, which looked perfect on camera there, and I was convinced the rabbit was down and cleanly dispatched. But as you see, when I walked over to pick it up, I noticed that the rabbit was still conscious. So I grabbed a hold of the rabbit firmly, picked it up, and finished it off quickly by stretching its neck, which separates the spinal cord from the head and causes instant death. The shot hit lower than I anticipated in the neck. It was still a fatal wound, but the rabbit just hadn't bled out yet. I don't enjoy dispatching rabbits like this, but if you hunt long enough, it's something you need to know how to do. Moving on to the next field, I spied a rabbit well in the distance. The light was really starting to go here. I'm surprised the camcorder was doing so well. Now there was no cover between me and the rabbit to help me stalk in closer, but the rabbits are used to seeing livestock in the field, so I basically bluffed it and casually walked within range of the rabbit, hoping that would just take me as one of the cattle dandering about the field and grazing here and there. And thankfully it worked. It doesn't always work, but this time it worked, and the rabbit just paused at the edge of the fence line before jumping on into safety. So I got the rifle set up in the sticks. That was ranged at about 35 yards, and took the shot. This time the rabbit was dispatched cleanly, with a single shot to the head. It does give you an air of satisfaction when you do manage a nice clean shot like this, and the animal has no suffering or distress. It was a good adult-sized rabbit. So I shook the congealed blood out of its ears and gave its belly a wee squeeze to get rid of the urine before putting it into the game bag. The rabbits won't always be as easy to bluff like this without stalking on your hands and knees or your belly. As soon as you manage to successfully take one or two, they soon learn that the silhouette of a man is dangerous, and they'll head towards ground a lot quicker. But I've got a few rabbits in the bag and an enjoyable evening out.